Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to today's presentation, Make Your Presentation Pop. Our speaker today is Carlos Galeana. He's an experienced technology trainer, and his work in public libraries has been recognized by Library Journal. He enjoys learning about emerging technology, accessibility, digital well-being, and visual media, just as we all do. And you can find out more about him by going to his website, carlosgaleana.com. Carlos, you have the microphone. Take it away.
Thank you, everybody. Hi, greetings. Greetings from the Seattle, Washington area. I'm so glad to be with you all. And today's presentation is on a little bit about PowerPoint, a little bit of Google Slides, a little bit of Canva, but our main focus is going to be really about facilitation and leading virtual workshops and in-person content, and just really how you can kind of engage with your audience. I have a whole bunch of tips, and at the end of this program, you'll have access to my slideshow, and at the tail end of that slideshow, you'll see different links and different resources that you can access, from image libraries to articles to videos. They're just kind of an assortment of different topics, and you can kind of pick and choose whatever applies best for you. But like I was mentioning, I've been doing technology training for some time now, and my work is mostly in public libraries, but I also worked in other government organizations and nonprofit, and just so excited to be connected with you all over there in Florida. So I'm going to start off with sharing my screen. And I just want to do a quick overview of PowerPoint, and my goal is that you get to some of these tips may apply for your work. And if it doesn't necessarily apply for your work, at least you could maybe mention this to a library patron of yours, or a coworker, or maybe even a family member. So the tips are just kind of really general, just some ideas to kind of get the creativity going. So I'm just going to start off with Outlook.com. I always start here because a lot of our patrons are coming from wanting to get access to PowerPoint, but they might not have access to the premium version. So I'm going to be using the free version for today, which is based online. Outlook.com, you could just create an account. It's free to do. And then just go to the 9 dots over here and then just launch PowerPoint. And it's going to be loading here my PowerPoint, and then doing a blank presentation. One of my go-to tips for learning technology, whether it's like a software tool or something for your home or for your work, is really um, focusing on something perhaps that something that's fun or something that's like you're passionate about, and seeing if you could try that project. And then when it comes time to your work project, then you would have had all the tools to really be able to pull that off. So for this example, I'm going to just do a presentation on tiger conservation. Really passionate about tigers, and I just really love that animal. So it's just like more like a passion project for me. So when I get something assigned to me from work, then I can just really apply what I'm experimenting with here, and then apply that to my regular work. So I'm going to go ahead and just type here on the title page here, save a tiger. And one of my favorite things about PowerPoint is called Designer, which you'll see here in the corner. Looks like a paintbrush. And this is artificial intelligence at work. And you're going to be seeing this paintbrush throughout the other Microsoft applications. It just appeared on Word last week or so. I noticed that it's on Word Online. And what it does, it gives you some suggestions. So you could see that just by me typing the word tiger, it's offering me suggestions on how I could build out my presentation without really doing much. And anytime I see a diamond, it means I have to pay for it through the premium version, but some of these are available for free. So I like this first one that has an animated GIF of the tiger in the back. And now I'm already just starting my slideshow. I really didn't do much. All I did was just type save a tiger, and it's already given me like that background. And then if I do a right click and then do a new slide, I can go to insert instead of using the traditional bullets that you see here with the little dot there, I could start using what's called shape art. And it has this like little green icon here. You could also do insert shapes, or you could do smart art here. And smart art is a really cool alternative instead of using the bullets. And you're going to see things like chevrons, circles that show process, all kinds of different things, hierarchy, timelines. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose this one, this trapezoid one. And then I could just type, 0.1, and then 0.2. And I'm all doing this in the free version of PowerPoint. If you wanted to use the premium version, like for your work that your work has been paying for, you can also still edit it on your desktop app. All you have to do is just go to the little pencil button down here, up here in the corner, and then choose View, Open in Desktop App. And then it syncs it straight to your computer, and then you can continue working on the full PowerPoint version. So right now I have 3 points, and if I wanted to omit one, I could just backspace or delete. And there we go. That changes the shapes by itself of the trapezoids here. And I'm just backspacing. And there we go. Now I'm going to be having 2 trapezoids. And then if I click on it, I could also just change it. So if I do a double click, let's see, I could do design. I could change a few other things on here, like the way the slides are laid out. Right now it's following the template from this previous tiger one that I selected. So that's why it has this kind of greenish paintbrush. And if I do a right click, I could change the style of it as well. So I could choose like a 3-dimensional look, or have it have like some in shade to it. I could also change the color, and these colors have been predetermined based on the theme I've chosen. So I could just choose something like this, like the green that I already had, or a mix of light greens and dark greens. And if I'm not happy with the trapezoid, I could just change it automatically. I could just choose layouts again, and I could just choose a different set of shapes. And I don't really have to do too much. It just kind of does it on its own. So that's a really great way to move away from those bullet points that are you see in like in every PowerPoint presentation. The last thing I want to show you on PowerPoint before we move on to Google Slides is the new modern take of clip art. So many of us grew up on access to kind of like a cartoon representation of a certain action. And now what that is called icons. So if I do insert and then go to icons, which looks like a little bird thing here. And then I can choose different icons. So here's a plane icon, here's a chart icon. And these are all just solid color icons that I could change the color of. And I could also use people. So let's say I'm doing a training and I want to use actual individuals, images of individuals. I could do cutout people. And you could put some of these people in your training slideshow. Stickers. So if you wanted something a little bit more fun and lively. Illustrations. Cartoon people. So if you didn't want to use images of individuals, you could use cartoon people here. And I'm going to go back to icons, and I'm just going to type, let's say, planet. Cool. And I want this part of the world. And then all I have to do is just go to insert. And then I can make it bigger if I want to. And if I press the home button, I could change the color of it. Let's see, it should be under the 3 dots. shape fill. I could give it an orange color if I want. And now I have an icon of a planet. And then I could just talk about my points here. And everything is backing up to OneDrive. So as I close it out, I can get back to OneDrive. If I go to my email, 9 dots, OneDrive, and my project for my Tiger project is going to be here. Since I'm still working on it, here's another project that I had. Since I'm still working on it, what I could do is I could call it draft. And I like to put that up here right above the name of my project. And then when it's finished, I like to put final. So that way, if I'm working with stakeholders or my coworkers, they know that that's the final version. And this is the final version of my project, so to speak. And that's just kind of some quick things that you could do on PowerPoint. Is there any questions on the chat? If not, we'll move on to Google Slides. All right, I'm gonna move on to Google Slides, and then if there's any questions, feel free to plop them in on the chat there. So a little bit of the same thing. We're gonna continue talking about tigers, but now we're gonna do it on Google Slides. So you're on Gmail, 9 dots. You can go to the Slides button, or you can choose Drive. Once you do that, you could do New and then choose Google Slides. And if you ever noticed, this is a really great thing to teach patrons. PowerPoint has a orange color to their logo, and Google Slides has this kind of goldenrod color. So it's really good for color coding. Excel is green, Google Sheets is green, Microsoft Word is blue, Google Docs is blue. So it's a great way if you're teaching like both topics, you can do like little color coding. Anywho, I created this slideshow here, and it's a little plain right now. So what they have, Google Slides does not have a designer button, but they have an explore button. And the explore button is down here at the bottom. It looks like a kind of like a quasar kind of star symbol. And then they start kind of giving you suggestions of how you could kind of spruce up your presentation. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose this one. There we go. And here's kind of another somewhat kind of plain looking slide. So to kind of spruce it up a little bit, you can add a GIF. So if you just go to like a GIF library, like Giphy, for example, you could type in like whatever you're looking for. I'm just going to type in like tiger. And let's say this is a good one. Let's say this is a good one. This is the one I want. So what you could do is you could just download it and save it to your computer, and then you would import it into your slideshow. So just do a right click and then save image, and then I'll save it to my computer. Okie doke, did that. And then going back to my Google Slides, and of course you could also do this on PowerPoint. I'm going to insert image from my computer, and here is my GIF, and there it is. And then I could just go to explore, and I could just choose an option. I don't like the option, the suggestion they're giving me. So what I could do is I could just move things around, move this over, put this here, and then maybe move my text over a little bit. There we go. And of course I should shorten this text out a little bit. And here is just one example of just kind of a GIF in action. If you're going to be presenting and you're staying on this slide for a long time, it could be a little distracting. So I only choose GIFs where it's only like a brief topic. You're kind of really just talking about something really briefly, and then you can use them to their full advantage. Google also has a really cool tool called Data GIF Maker. So here's another example, data GIF Maker dot with google.com, and you can make your own GIFs using like representing data. So I made this one of like tigers in China, like sample populations, and I created this GIF. And it's just a matter of just like simply editing information. And then you could type in the numbers here. And then when you're ready, you can save the GIF. And I'll just save it to my computer. And it's kind of like rendering, so you can do other tasks and then you can come back to it. And then you can populate this GIF into your presentation, just like how I did it with the tiger thing here. Other things you could do is they don't have smart art on Google Slides, so their version of smart art is called diagrams. So if you do insert diagrams, here's where you can do all kinds of shapes to show like process improvement, change relationships. I like just to do view all, and then you get to do the view all of all the different processes that you can put in there, from circles to timelines. And if I wanted the circle one, for example, I can add more parts to my circle. I could change the color of them as well. And then I just type on the little circles there. And that's how I can kind of show like a different smart art. PowerPoint is a whole lot more user-friendly. It's a little bit more clunkier on Google Slides. Here's a timeline of like tiger extinction. So I want to create like a quick timeline. These are the years down there. And what I'm going to do is create a timeline, insert diagram timeline. And I could just choose the different formats. I'm going to choose this one here. And you could change the information. Right now, it's in this filler text format, the lorem ipsum text generator. There's this cool website where you can auto generate. So if you're looking for filler text, you can get some filler text there. And all these resources that I'm sharing are going to be on my slideshow, so you can just click on them and access them if you're interested. So now what I want to do is just kind of do like a quick animation for my timeline. So if I click on it, I could go ahead and this is the first year that I'm going to animate. I can go to the three dots and animate. And it's really intuitive from this point on. You could do fade in on your click, or you could do fade out, fly in from the top. When it comes to animation, I'm pretty conservative. I don't really like those animations that are pretty like kind of coming from different angles. So I'm just gonna do fade in, and I'm gonna choose the next one, add animation, fade in, add animation, and I'm not really doing much. It's already kind of, Google Slides is already thinking I'm gonna choose fade in, which is what I'm gonna do. And that's it. So I got 4 of them, and if ever I'm not happy with them, I could just trash them and then just redo them. So now I'm gonna just start my slideshow. And here it is. So I'm presenting, and here's my first ear. Here's my next one. Here's my next one. And here's my final one. Let's see how my GIF is doing. So yeah, it's still kind of doing it there. It looks like it's ready to be exported. So I'm going to save it to my computer. Let's see if I could save that to my computer. Gonna just call it Tigers in China. There we go. And go back to my presentation. And what I could do is I could do insert now, image from my computer. And I'm gonna just choose the Tigers in China GIF. And here's another thing that I could kind of do to spruce up my presentation. And when I present it from the slideshow, there it is. So really no animation. It's basically your animation is a GIF. It's something that's just kind of auto playing. I'm going to pause here because I think there's a few questions on the chat. Let's see. First question is, let's see. Can we get a PDF of the graphics of the step-by-steps of this PowerPoint? Yeah, there isn't. I don't really have so much of a step-by-step process, but what I do have is my slideshow with pretty much all the information I've talked about, and then you'll be able to see the recording of this presentation at a later time. And how easy is it to convert a PowerPoint deck into Google Slides? Yeah, pretty simple. Yes, and the second question is, can you use the GIF to create a GIF maker on non-Google products? Yes. So let me go back to PowerPoint for a quick moment. Is if I'm here on Outlook.com, right, and then just open up my PowerPoint project, I could do it from the PowerPoint button or from the 9 dots. I'm gonna go to PowerPoint. And if I want to convert this to Google Slides format, all I have to do is File and then do a Save As, and then choose just download it. I could download it as a PDF if I want to, or I could just save it in my computer, which says download a copy to my computer, and it'll be in PowerPoint format. And then what you do on Google Drive is you upload it, file new file upload, and then it's gonna be in, you could use it in Google Slides format. Going back to the GIF maker one, so I made one and I could add it here now. So I could just do insert pictures from my device. And then here's my tigers in China one. And there it is. So there's my GIF now. And I could just make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And then if I do the presentation, and then there's my tiger thing, here's my first point, and here is my slides. Yeah, the GIFs could be a little distracting if you have them, if you're kind of staying in like one point for like a long period of time. If you're staying there for like 5 minutes, it could get a little distracting. They're just really meant just to be more like just extra information, kind of like a decoration, but it's not something you always want to like lean on, because the GIFs kind of like repeat constantly. So something to kind of keep in mind of. You want to be kind of selective of that. All right, great questions. I'm gonna just kind of jump on over to this really cool resource. It's called Slides Go. And here's a really cool place to get some templates. So maybe for work, you have a template that you have to use, but you could still use some of the things on here. So I'll give you an example. So if I click on this one here, there's different kind of layouts, and you can get some inspiration on how those things kind of are laid out for you. Especially if you don't really like have a design eye, or if you don't have a design background, you can get some suggestions on these. And these are free to download, so you could download this template. And some of these have kind of like an asset slideshow. So what that means is they have all their icons and their colors all selected. So you can kind of like pick and choose what icons you want, rather than you kind of searching on the internet for different icons. You can just kind of choose from here. And then if you wanted to download it, you could download it in Google Slides format or PowerPoint format. And what's another cool thing about SlidesGo is that they also have tutorials here about working with layouts and size of your slides and different topics. And that's just one topic here. There's many different ones. So there's like educational slides here, different styles, some that are more for like a younger audience, some that are more for like a business audience. It just depends, and you can pick and choose which ones you want. You can just change a few things on there. There's a whole bunch of image libraries. Some of the better ones are called like Pexels, Pexels, and then you could type what you're kind of like looking for, and then you can get high quality images. So if I type in, for example, soccer, you're going to get people playing soccer or soccer balls, and these are free images that you can use. You don't have to give attribution to them. If I type in tigers, get really high definition photos of tigers. Some good ones. So I like this one. I'm going to save this one. And it's just high quality photo. I could just download it to my computer. And then when I'm ready, I could just put it on my slideshow. Canva is a really cool tool that's just adding more and more features to it. It seems like they're doing something new every month. So that's a cool tool. It's spelled like the word canvas, but without the S. And you can make all kinds of projects on there, from like documents to social media posts, banners for a website, and of course, presentations. So right now I have it blank. So if I do presentations from here, or if I do create a design, I could choose presentations from here. I could just manually type it in, and it gives me suggestions. I'll choose that one. And Canva also has the templates. Anything with a crown is not free. I'm using the free version at the moment. And I'm going to choose this one called Company Profile. And I could pick and choose if I want all the slides or just some of them. I'm going to choose all the slides. And instead of it saying Company Profile, I'm just going to type Save a Tiger. And if you remember, like, I'm doing the same project essentially, but in 3 different ways. And that helps you learn the different tools at a faster pace rather than trying to come up with new things to try to explore. Try to do the same thing over and over again, and you can really see and compare and contrast the different tools. I'm going to change the colors. Give it a black color, and I'm just kind of clicking on this like little box color here. And there's a picture of the building. So if you do uploads, you can put a picture of a tiger. These are my previous photos that I've had in here. And you could just kind of like plop it in there too. I'm clicking on the building right now, and I'm just going to trash it. And then you could just kind of resize it. And right click, send to back. There we go. So this black stripe is in front of that tiger. My favorite thing about Canva is that the presentation aspect of it, which is really neat. So if I do present up here, I could just do the present button, and I get this really cool, like bluish kind of glow. And so it really helps my participants track where I'm at and where I'm going. So it's one of my favorite things about what Canva's kind of like offering. It's already built into it, so you don't have to change any settings on your computer to achieve that. One of the other things you can also do is there's this cool website called remove.bg. So what it does is if you have a picture and there's some background stuff on it, you can remove the background and just kind of get a cutout of that person or that animal. So it's a really cool way to do that. So let me upload a picture of a tiger. That's kind of like what I'm saying, like all the time tigers. Here's one. And then there's my tiger. And now it's removed the background, that little jungle background it had, it's gone. So now I could just download it. Now it's on my computer. And then I can go to Google Slides if I want to, give the background a black color, insert image, upload. Here's my transparent background. There it is. So the tiger is kind of like floating now into my slides here. So that's another thing you can do to kind of like spruce up your project rather than just having like regular pictures. You can have them without the background, and then it looks like they're kind of popping out of the slides there. All right, so those were kind of a couple of tools that I've kind of talked about. Is there any other questions before we move on to the last portion of the presentation? All right, yeah, to recap, I did one project kind of 3 different ways. On PowerPoint, I used Smart Art instead of bullet points. I used icons, which is a modern version of clip art. And then on Google Slides, I did a little bit of timeline animation. I used some GIFs to kind of make it a little bit more interesting. I could also do GIFs on PowerPoint as well. Just save the GIF to your computer and then upload it as a picture. I also did the transparent background. So I removed the background of the tiger and it just kind of made it give it an effect like it was part of the presentation. On Canva, I used a template. I just changed some of the text on there, put my own pictures on there, and I started kind of like fiddling around with that. SlidesGo is a really cool place for you to get some templates as well. And so that's a really cool place to get some ideas. Not only do they have templates, but they also have icons in there. So when you download a template, you can see all the icons they're using, and that saves you time from having to go on the internet and find an icon of like a plus symbol or a square or things of that nature. All right, so good stuff, and thank you for using that remove BG. Yeah, and then for a timer on the GIFs, I haven't really noticed a timer that stops them from like really like animating, unfortunately. Not to my knowledge. So that's where like kind of GIFs are to your disadvantage. And you may want to, instead of using GIFs, just use traditional animation. Just like how I did the timeline earlier, you could just animate in that way and then they stop. They don't keep repeating the animation. All right, so I'm going to just show you my slideshow, and on my slides I have some really cool tips on you kind of like leading your presentation. So give me a sec. So here's my slideshow. There's probably, I think, it looks like there's 38 slides. So I really won't have enough time to really cover everything on here, but I just kind of want to focus on some areas. And this is kind of like your reference guide for you to like kind of look at in the future. I'll just start my slideshow and just kind of go over some of these topics. So I heard this when I was a teenager and it just really stuck with me. It just says practice makes better, not perfect. So just trying to get better at it. You're going to learn some cool stuff that you didn't know like a year ago and so on and so on. You could try something called Rehearse Coach on PowerPoint, and that captures all the times you say and you pause, and it kind of gives you some feedback. You can also try recording yourself as well and seeing how you do, and that can help you see if you're taking too long on a certain section or going too fast. And if you're not a designer, you can create something like on Pinterest that have like a mood board. You can gather all the best kind of templates you've seen online, maybe like from SlideShow, and you can have them saved somewhere, and you can always kind of pull to have a little bit of inspiration. Here are some of like the pitfalls I've seen in presentations. It's like, not collaborating with the stakeholders, kind of doing it all on your own, really getting stuck with jargons and acronyms. And if you have a new employee in your presentation, they might not know what you're referring to. Really working hard to being stuck on like this perfection, having outdated content, images with watermarks or poor resolution, and just like inconsistent formatting. I always like to do a resource list because I feel like you always want to keep the conversation going. So after your presentation is over and people go on with about their day, having a resource list or things that they could continue to study the content that you talked about, whether it's about like, de-escalation or, bystander intervention, having like videos on those topics would be really helpful for people to keep coming back to your slideshow as a reference rather than just a one-time thing that they experience and then they're gone. Parts of a slideshow, and I'm going to be skipping some sections. So this is just kind of like if you're leading a virtual program, these are like my go-to tips. It really like if like I think it's great that if you're using Zoom, it always just share some reminders, like some reminders about the captions, for example, how to use the chat. Have the backup peripherals handy. I have like 3 computers in front of me right now, so it's just always like good as good backup in case one of them just kind of crashes on me. I like to join the meeting from 2 devices, one that I'm using as a presentation and one that I'm using for a screen share. It really helps me see how you're seeing my presentation if I'm going too fast or like really like too slow. So if I'm talking about something and you're not seeing it, I would see it on my second device. And always remember if you're screen sharing, there's a slight delay. So don't start talking right away. Have your video captions on if you're going to play like a YouTube video. Zoom in and out. Use a large bold font. You may have noticed I have a larger mouse cursor, so that could kind of help you track where I'm going. Make sure if you're going to show your desktop, it's decluttered. Have a solid color like wallpaper, like a black background. That's like a really good contrast. If you're going to be showing like from your phone, like make sure all the notifications are turned off. And I like to think of this as like the food channel when someone is like cooking something on the food channel and they're really like narrating their steps. That's what I like to do as well when I'm leading a presentation. I always say I'm going to share my screen or I'm going to stop sharing. That way people aren't always kind of caught off guard when something appears on their screen or something disappears from their screen. Here are some of my facilitation tips, and I'll pause after a few of these. So it's really important to add in information on your calendar invite. That really helps people get some context rather than just sending an invite with a blank with no information on there. I always like to start on time but end early if you can. Establishing like meeting guidelines. If you're going to talk about difficult topics, make sure there's a content and trigger warning in there as well. Have language interpreters if needed, and just being mindful of like a neurodiverse audience. Oversharers. So this is my kind of go-to tip for people who like to domineer a conversation, who like to speak a lot, is you could do something called like a 2-minute 360. And the analogy is like a family dinner. So everyone gets the chance to speak. And this example, it's 2 minutes. They could pass, or they could speak for those 2 minutes, and the facilitator is timing them. And you can start in ABC order. So you can start like with Adam, and then Brittany, and then Carlos, or you can start in reverse order with like Zoe, Thomas, and then work your way that way. And no one gets the chance to speak again until everybody's had the chance to get their appetizer or their first plate or their seconds. And no one gets a chance to get desserts until everyone's had a chance to either have their second plate if they wanted to or not. And that's a really cool, like fun way to kind of stamp out over people who are just kind of like talking over other people. And this kind of tends to happen with our managers sometimes. Our managers are kind of taking control of the conversation. So that's a really great way to kind of start building these in. And if you start doing these, a few people are going to get the hang of it. And you're going to start noticing that meetings are going to be a little bit more equitable. You can use like a whiteboard. Here are some of my favorite ones. There's an app called Whiteboard without an H. So that's a free tool where you can have like interaction and interactivity. And I'm just gonna like pause here because there's a few questions on the chat. All right, so yeah, there was a mention. Which software do you use to create animations? Blender, anything easier to learn and use? I was just using to use the animations. I was just using what's kind of like built into Google Slides or PowerPoint. I wasn't using anything like Blender. And then people have noticed that I'm using a Mac, but I haven't mentioned Keynote. Is it useful in any way? Can Keynote be converted to Google Slides? Keynote is another option as well. I tend to not discuss Keynote as much, which is an Apple product, because most workplaces are not on the Apple environment. They're usually on Google or on Microsoft, but Keynote is another tool that you can also use as well. Yes, so and the Keynote is really cool because you can also use it on your iPad or your iPhone, but you could also use Google Slides and PowerPoint on your iPhone and your iPad or Android device as well. So yeah, Keynote is another fine option as well. All right, I'm going to continue going. Yeah, so for the whiteboard one, all you have to do is just copy the link to the whiteboard, and then you can put it on the chat for your learners. So I'll give you an example. I'll look for a whiteboard. I'll go on the whiteboard website, and then I'll plop it in on this chat, and then you could kind of see it in action. So give me one moment, okay? And it's whiteboard without the H. It's like Ouija board. You just go on like whiteboard.com. I'm sorry, let me double check that. Yeah, it's whiteboard.com, and it gives you like a unique instance. So after you close a session, this session expires. So then what I got to do is I could just share it, and the link has been copied. Now I'm going to put it on the chat for you all to access. And again, this is more like for workshops. This isn't like a PowerPoint or Google Slides thing. It's more like you're leading a workshop through Zoom or Teams or even like in person. And you can see that there's a link now. So now you as a participant can go in there and you can like interact. So let's say I pose a question to you all. It'd be like, which was your favorite animal? It's like an icebreaker, and then people would like manually type in what those things are, what their favorite animal is. And it's a good like icebreaker tool as well, because rather than people raising their hand, it's like people interact and it's anonymously, so they're not really focused on being like singled out or anything like that. Let's see if some of you if some of you get a chance, feel free to write on it on the whiteboard that I shared on the chat. All right, I'm going to continue on going. I always get this. I put it in the wrong place. Excuse me. I put it on the panelist chat, so give me a chance. And that's why it's important to narrate your steps, because if I didn't narrate my steps, you probably wouldn't have known about it. So it's really just share what you're doing, and then people who are on the other end can try to figure out what you're working on. and I put it now in the right place. So hopefully you all can get to it now. Yeah, there we go. So let me do a screen share, and you all are doing all kinds of stuff on it now. See? And then you can work on it. So it's a really good like icebreaker. It's a good like if you want to ask a question, um, you know, it has it has that anonymous feel to it. So rather than calling out someone from the audience, cool. All right, I'll leave you to it. Always get this question a whole lot is how many slides should I have? It's like really don't focus on the number of slides. Just really focus on the number of ideas per slide. And you could see that I'm using that GIF thing again. Now I'm using a light bulb. And here's another GIF in action. So if you have like just some type of movement and otherwise static presentation, it just kind of gives it a little bit of life, a little bit of levity, especially if your topic could be maybe it's a little dry or a little serious. Just depends on your audience, of course, but it kind of gives it a little bit of spunk, so to speak, to your presentation. The GIF itself is on a black background, so the orange phone is in a black background. So I made my background black, and it looks like the phone is by itself. Really cool technique if you're presenting in person. It's called I call it like the TED Talk feel to it. So what it is that you put time triggers on each slide. It's really effective, really only on PowerPoint, not on Google Slides. And you give it a time, and then after that time, it transitions to the next topic. So for example, 5 minutes on welcomes, 2 minutes on topic 1, 2 minutes on topic 2, really keeps you on track because everything is advancing by itself. You're not fiddling with a clicker. You're not telling the person, next slides. You're just walking around in the room, and the slides behind you are advancing on their own. And it really helps you with pacing, with timing. It does require some rehearsal on your end. But when you do that, your audience is going to be really wowed. I've done it a few times before the pandemic in person, and people were really impressed because I wasn't fiddling with a clicker. I wasn't talking to someone about next slides. It helped me stay on point just based on what the slides were showing. And I could just glance in the back and I could see where I'm at because I've rehearsed quite a bit. So a lot of rehearsal. Yes, and so each slide as it's advancing, it has a different trigger, different time frame. So it's basically on the feature on PowerPoint, it's auto advancing slides, and then it just advances. And yeah, because the question is, can you stop if you get questions? So you can't really stop it. You would have to kind of walk on over to the computer and then just press pause or escape the slideshow. So it's a really good technique of the Q&A is at the end of your presentation. So it isn't good for if you have Q&A in the middle, in the beginning, middle, and end. If you're just doing your thing, it's at the end of it. Of your Q&A comes at the end. So have people hold their questions, and that's like what the TED Talk is like, right? The speaker doesn't pause for questions in the middle of it. They do their thing and then they get their applause, or they probably answer questions after the video recording. So it's auto advancing on its own, but it's not good for Q&A in the beginning or in the end. It's only good for Q&A at the end. Excuse me. And then we talked about the timeline animation. You could do that. You could do that in GIF format or just regular animation. I think it's really important to get inclusive imagery, high quality, diverse images, and I have a set of image libraries that you can access for free at the tail end of this presentation. So let's jump ahead all the way towards the end. Oh, I wanted to also mention emojis. Emojis could be another fun take on clip art. So instead of using like a lot of words. You can use emojis to kind of replace them. It's really geared for more like a fun topic, or like maybe like working with youth. So just make sure it's appropriate for your audience. It's not good for your library foundation or your team of executives necessarily. So here are the tools. So there's a whole bunch of places where you can get started, from like color pickers to color samples, all the image libraries, sound libraries, emojis, royalty-free music, facilitation tips, how to have a respectful conversation, the whiteboard, changing your mouse cursor on Windows 10, changing your mouse cursor on Mac. Some other articles here, like other alternatives to bullet points, which we kind of focused on a tiny bit, but here's some other ideas. Accessibility, and then here's some other cool videos that you can watch at your leisure. So that's all I have. I always like to start on time and a little early. Go for it if you have any questions. Lead the way.
Carlos, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I think there is an alternative to GIFs called stickers, which automatically have invisible backgrounds. So your telephone, which was orange, you put on a black background so that the background wouldn't show. If that were a sticker, I believe you'd be able to put it on any color background and you'd have just your phone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I didn't know that one. Thank you, Al. See, sharing tips. Thank you, Al.
Sure.
Great. So the other question is, do you have a favorite presentation software? From the ones we saw, it really also depends on the job that I'm working with. For you all, like, because I'm using my personal account, I just used Google Slides. My work is pretty stringent on the Microsoft apps, so I really have to stick to those. So I just tend to stick to whatever my audience is going to require of me. If it's something a little bit more like fancy, maybe like a fundraiser to stakeholders, I might even just go with Canva because it's a really great wow factor that's already built into it. But for work, it's exclusively PowerPoint because that's what is required of me. For home, I just generally use Google Slides.
I see that Laura has mentioned in chat that WhatsApp may have an extension that makes stickers.
Cool.
That's not where I encountered them, but that would be another place that would be worth checking.
Yeah, so just to recap, my tip is just to first explore something fun, something you're passionate about, maybe at home. Try to learn that tool. Like, for example, if you're learning video editing, maybe make something with your family members, learn some skills there. And then when your workplace is tasking you to do something like that, then you can already have those tools in your back pocket and you're not really feeling like anxious about not knowing where to start. Do something fun first, and then you can do it on for work. And then if you're learning, a librarian taught me this, if you're learning like technology, try to do the same thing over different softwares, and then you can see the difference and compare and contrast. So that technique is really good if you're learning databases. Try to search for the same information on different databases, and then you'll be able to see the differences on what's being provided to you. Cool. Thanks for the stickers link. Awesome. All right. Well, that's all I have. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Carlos, thank you very much for today's presentation, and thanks to all of you who attended. We hope you have a great day today and can put some of this stuff to work. Remember, it will be available on at Niche Academy in just a couple of days.